good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku Podcast, the official anime podcast of Revenge of the Fans. How is everybody doing out there? I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan, only one of your hosts, and as usual, I am accompanied by the one, the only, the humanoid typhoon, known as Doc Isak. What is up, man?
Go Power Rangers.
Did you get Power Rangers in Sweden?
Yup,
See? You do get some things.
agreed.
What is up, man? How's everything with you? Everything good, brother?
Everything is good.
Awesome.
Good.
I'm actually excited to be back here in our anime haven where we can talk awesome stuff. And I'm really excited about the anime that we're going to be talking about today. It's one of the first anime that I ever saw. And the best thing about it is that I stumbled upon it one night when I was very young, looking for something to watch because I couldn't sleep, and it was like 11:30 at night. So this was a treasure going back to it, and we're gonna talk about a very classic anime from the late 1990s. And I don't know. To me, this is not a cult classic. This is like one of those big mama jamma animes. We're gonna talk about Trigun. Are you excited?
There is some triple type pun here, but I don't know. It's glued as a gun. I don't know.
Why did it sound like you're going through a list of puns? Do you sit down every morning and just write puns and you look for moments to insert them? Is that what you do in your spare time, Isaac?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool. See, I knew I wasn't mad. It makes perfect sense. Every time I talk to you, you have something ready to go. Now I know you just have a list, like a loaded weapon, quick for the draw.
Thank you.
See what I did there?
I was about to. You're learning. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm learning or if I'm just descending into madness just because I keep talking to you every other day. Either way, I think it's a progress. Don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just need to get the switch.
See, now you're getting personal. I was.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah. Everybody, just let the record show that Doc Isak is harassing me to get a Switch. He is probably 100% right that I should. But Isaac, let's get down to business. Let's talk anime because that's what we come to do at the Amateur Otaku. Because in anime you find stories that are amazing, that are wonderful, that are great ways of great and new ways and creative ways to explore genres of story. And a lot of people are missing out whenever they miss out or disregard anime just because it's animation or just because they don't know or just because there's just too much out there. And I'm glad that we can get together at the Amateur Otaku and kind of point people in the right direction. And I'm really excited of talking about this show. I think when we started this podcast last year, because Isaac, it's been almost a year since we've been recording with the Amateur Otakus. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I think Trigun was one of the first ones we definitely mentioned that we wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I know it was Trigun. I know it was like Hellsing. We definitely want to do Hellsing. We definitely want to do Tokyo Godfathers. I was not expecting us to do Ghost in the Shell. It's been a great year, and a great of learning and of talking anime with everybody out there. So I think it's safe to say, Isaac, that we really appreciate everybody that's been tuning in every month to listen to our episodes, to support us. And I'm going to say thank you to everybody. And you feel the same way, right, Isaac?
Why should I know?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk Trigun. So I'm gonna start with a quick little summary of what the show is about, and then we're gonna spoil the hell out of it. But we're gonna talk about the love that we have for this anime and why it's a series that you should definitely check out. Trigun. Yes.
Wait, are we going to start? I'm sorry. Go on.
No, you're fine. That actually you never know when the outlaws will. Okay, you know what? I'm not the pun guy, so I'm just gonna go back to my script. I'm gonna go back to my script because I'm not the pun guy. That's all you, Isaac. I appreciate you catching me off guard, like the bullet in the wind. Oh, okay, so try. Trigun follows the exploits of Vash the Stampede as he wanders across the desert planet of Gunsmoke in search for a dangerous man from his past. Due to the dangers that follow him and the infamy of his name wherever he goes, the authorities have placed a bounty of 60 billion double dollars for whoever catches him, dead or alive. With the company of two feisty insurance agents, it is revealed that the truth is revealed of the humanoid typhoon, and the legend of Vash the Stampede is shown to be more than meets the eye. This show is Trigun. It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. Well, that's for later, Isaac. Stop telling people. You don't start talking to people with the nasty of the show. And, this is a PG-13 show just because. PG-13, people. PG-13. Calm down, Arthur Curry. Okay, so Trigun came out in 1998. And I think the best way that I can describe this show, it is the quintessential sci-fi, steampunk, western anime of the 20th century. I think, Isaac, is safe to say, I think we talked about this a lot when we talked about Cowboy Bebop in one of our previous episodes. And it's that some of the best and innovative anime are not the longest animes, but are the animes that take multiple genres, mix them together to make their own thing, and actually are good. Because there's a lot of animes that try to do a lot at the same time, or even movies that try to do a lot at the same time, and it just doesn't work. But a lot of anime are known for taking multiple genres and multiple layers of narrative and storytelling and do it in a way that actually makes sense, and it enriches the storytelling in the world. So I remember watching this show when I was young in Adult Swim. Those that live in the States or lived in Puerto Rico, which is where I'm from, know that after dark, after 11:30 at night or 10:30 at night, Cartoon Network will become a adult swim, an adult's abyss of great content for grown-ups. And some of the great content, apart from the weird cartoons for adults like Mission Hill, all the American cartoons were so weird. It was one of the only places where you can watch quality anime. And it was in Adult Swim that I found out about Reign the Conqueror. It was where I found Cowboy Bebop for the first time. It was there where I found Full Metal Alchemist for the first time. And it was there where I found Trigun. And I remember that this is like one of the first animes that, because I didn't always stay up late every night, because of course I was a teenager, I was going to school in the morning, and I kind of turned on the TV, trying not to wake up anybody. It was kind of like hiding because I didn't want to sleep. I wanted to watch television. I kind of watched the entirety of Trigun in my young years, and I knew I enjoyed it and I found it cool. And I really find it very heartwarming for me that I was able to rewatch the series for the pod and really embrace and enjoy how good this show was. And now with the knowledge that I have about movies, about genres, about storytelling, it just opens my eyes to how great this show is. Isaac, how did you discover Trigun? Who pointed you in that direction? What are your thoughts on it?
How I was introduced to Trigun is through the same friend that introduced me to the convoluted mess that is Neon Genesis Evangelion. But unlike Evangelion, Trigun has aged like a fine wine.
Yeah.
And yes, for those that hasn't heard that episode, yes, I'm not a fan of Neon Genesis Evangelion, but yeah, there is an episode for that.
Yes, there is. I would say this is like a nice glass of wine, and Evangelion is like a shot of Jägermeister. It
Mm.
just it just kicks you right in the. so so I think you and I have like I am normally the person that kind of pushes stuff to people. You always have you still probably have that friend that always shows you these shows.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, when he introduced you to Trigun, did you see the entire show? Did you just see like the pilot or random episode?
Around 3, 4 episodes.
Okay, nice, nice. So, so how old were you when you discovered Trigun? I know that I was around, I think I was in middle school, going towards high school. I think I was probably 14, 15 when I discovered Trigun. Um,
I
you
believe I believe it's around 14, 15.
yeah. See, that's the ripe age to be exposed to amazing content. When you first saw it, did you think about it being a Western? Do you think about that? Or did you just think about the guy with the gun? Like when you watched it again this time, like for me, when I watched it the second time, when I watched the entire thing, especially because I'm older, I mean, I probably watched it for the first time almost 20 years ago, which is kind of crazy. Um, I am appreciating it for all the twists and turns of genres and all the mixtures and how it's so I think it's one of those animes that's very beautifully crafted, especially with the hurdles that it went through because this particular show, apart from being made by one of the most amazing production companies, which is Madhouse, because apparently we don't know any other production companies, we only know Madhouse. That's gonna change soon, guys. but um, but I, after reading more information about this and reading about the fact that I don't know if you know this, but mid mid while the production of the show was halfway through, without the series, the actual manga, the source material ending, the magazine where it was published was canceled.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like a Full Metal Alchemist situation where those that know of the original Full Metal Alchemist anime, the first series, not Brotherhood, which follows the manga faithfully, the first Full Metal Alchemist series was actually like there's a point there where the brothers Elric reunite with their teacher. From more or less from that point forward, the first series becomes its own thing. It's an original story because the manga wasn't over. In that case, it actually worked pretty well. And another example where that didn't go that right, which I know because it's not that popular, is like the original Hellsing series. In my understanding, is not one of the most popular ones. A lot of people favor Ultimate, which is the
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
the original Helsing is not that good. It
yeah,
has its moments, but it's not that good in comparison to Ultimate.
right. Which is the one that you and I covered. And part of it is because the story wasn't over and they just needed to keep pushing content out. Now, in the case of Trigun, mid the anime's production, the manga was canceled, so there was no news of when it was going to be revived. But Madhouse did their job and they actually finished the story with an original story. But it is so good from start to finish. Like you don't feel a break. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There is a cohesiveness. Um, all the themes that start from the beginning do meet up to the end. I don't know how much the creator was involved with the rest of the anime, but I'm not surprised if he was because it feels like a very cohesive story. What I do know, Isaac, is that after like a couple of years after the anime ended, um, the creator of the show, the creator of the manga, actually started a new series called Trigon Maximum, which kind of picks up. I don't know if it picks up where the manga left off or it picks up where the show left off, but it's kind of like additional volumes that tell a bit more of the story. But yeah, it's Trigon is like one of those. it's like this show was destined for failure, but Madhouse pulled a hat trick and just did wonders with it. And I'm really happy that it was them. Because apart from them doing great original content, that Madhouse, they're the king of adaptations, and they've been doing amazing stuff all the way back to 1998 till today. Which by the way, since we talked about Helsing for a moment, I think I need to say this, Isaac. Did you know that one of the curious things about Helsing Ultimate is that all the volumes, it's a total of 10 volumes, but they were all made by different production companies.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one. And I think it's episode 6 to 8 were done by Madhouse. So we covered a Madhouse show without knowing that we were covered. Are we cursed, Isaac? Is that what's going on?
Nah.
So that's my take. I mean, I really like how it mixes sci-fi elements, steampunk, cyberpunk, and the idea of it being a cowboy story or like an outlaw story with all the themes that come with the Western genre, because it's the one that permeates the show from start to finish. What did you like? What stood out to you revisiting the show for the pod? That to you, maybe did you like it more now that you watched it again? Did you enjoy it less? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's. I was wondering when Trigun was going to activate his Bankan or doing some morphing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like you were waiting for him to go Kaioken.
Exactly. Or yes, recently Kaioken. That's a story for another time. But and yes, for those that are wondering, the one that the English voice actor for a certain main protagonist in this show is the same English voice actor for the Ichigo in Bleach and the original Black Power Ranger. So he's
interesting. Very
so,
interesting.
He's also Kaneda in Akira.
You just have to drop down those bits of wisdom, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool. That is actually pretty cool. Power Ranger voices Vash, Stampede, and Ichigo Kurosaki. That's actually pretty cool.
And Kaneda in Akira.
Nice. Tetsuo! Kaneda! Tetsuo! Kaneda!
Anyway, before it derails like it always makes us when he is around. But anyway, yeah, it was fun revisiting it. It while it has aged like a fine wine story-wise, when it comes to the animation, you can certainly see that it's sort of like a project of its time to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, unless there is a HD mix-up that I have sort of mixed up, that's the wrong term, fix-up maybe, sort of like how video games has the term HD remake.
Right.
I'm surprised that it hasn't happened yet.
Well, interesting. Now that you mention that, it's very interesting. We're not going to cover the OVA Badlands Rumble, Trigun Badlands Rumble. We're not going to cover it on this episode, but one of the things that I noticed is that Badlands Rumble, like Trigun, the series came out in 1998, and it came out throughout almost the entire year of '98. Badlands Rumble, I think, came out around 2008. And I was actually just looking at stills from the movie, and you can tell that they are using computer animation and HD polishing and stuff like that. Because one of the beauties, but one of the distinctive features, like you were saying, of Trigun, because it was done in '98, is that you can tell that this is hand drawn animation.
Yeah.
And it actually has that appeal. Like
Yeah.
for like in characters like Wolfwood, um, like when you look at his eyes, and you can see like the pencil strokes that they look like pencil strokes. You know what I mean? When you look at something that looks rough, it looks rough. It's funny because my wife from time to time watches me watch anime, and I normally watch like I normally mostly watch like what's going on. Like I'm watching My Hero Academia. I'm watching my wife and I started watching Demon Slayer, was actually pretty good.
I haven't
Um,
watched that actually.
and and the animation, of course, nowadays, especially Funimation, is doing things that are top notch. Especially Sword Art Online, like Aniplex is doing an amazing job with that show. But like when I was watching Trigun, she would look at it, and I'm watching it on my smart TV, like HD or whatever. But she was like, "Man, this is old, right?"
And don't get me wrong, I take hand draw animation before CG animation every day in the week, but I'm just feeling that sort of like, how should I put it? This is an anime that I feel should get some restoration. It's not bad animation, but if someone said that we're making some restoration for Trigun with better, it still feels the same, looks the same, but it's we have pitched up the animation so it looks looks better, so to say. It looks more cleaner and all that. You get what I'm saying? I
Oh
would.
yeah. I think what you're trying to say, like of all the shows that you can pick to remaster or to refurbish, this is one of the ones that deserves that
Yeah,
treatment.
exactly.
Yeah, I,
Sort
I
of
agree.
like
I agree with you 100%.
Astro Boy,
Yes, yes.
the old time Astro Boy, and no, I'm not speaking of the CGI ones.
Oh no, no, you're talking about your standard, your traditional black and white
Yup,
Astro Boy. Yep. No, I got you. 100%. It's just like when you buy a Blu-ray to watch the old Superman clips, like from the 1944, 1950s. Like
exactly.
those cartoons are pretty fantastic, and when they were revived, I mean, it's art. You know what I mean? And it's a great depiction of the character. And yeah, like this is one of those shows. And the best thing about Trigun is like this is one of those shows that should be on every otaku's radar. It is that good. And
Shall
it's
I?
not, and it go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I can take that later.
Yeah, it's not that long. The music is pretty good, but the story is just so playful but so dense and so interesting. And it's very captivating too, because in the midst of all the madness, and it's a good thing that I mentioned madness, and no, I'm not talking about you, Isaac, right now. I'm not talking about you specifically. But when you get to the madness of a character like Vash the Stampede, he is our main character. He is the legendary gunman, the legendary outlaw, the humanoid typhoon. You hear all these words, you hear the legend. I like how. Let's talk about the pilot real quick. I love how you're introduced to this character that acts like an idiot every opportunity that he gets. And just because he acts like an idiot, you automatically know that he's the main character. Apart from the fact that the whole opening is him doing power poses,
Yeah.
like, he's the main character. But I like how you can just hear the whistling. Like you don't hear the wow 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 wow. Like you don't hear any of that. But as you go through the scenes in the pilot and everybody's like talking about Vash, talking about the destruction, like like how they're building this legend, this myth. You feel like you're in a cowboy movie,
Yeah.
and but suddenly you see people throwing metal boomerangs, and then you're like, wait a minute, these are not the droids we're looking for, and it's like nothing. Even though you have this whole science packed those all these science weird sci-fi elements that are very heavy, and they're not trying to hide at all, especially towards the end, towards the latter half of the series, that they
Oh,
go more,
yeah.
yeah, that they go more deep into his origin. um I like how all that feels organic. It doesn't, like, the show, even though it's so short, and even though it has a lot of story to tell, it is so beautifully directed that you feel the show is actually taking its time. The show is not rushing anything. It takes its time to tell the story it wants to tell, and it takes its time to show you that Vash is just a lovable idiot.
Yeah.
And I love how that's the first thing you find out when you meet him, that he is just this bumbling idiot. But then you kind of find out that he's brilliant. But then you find out that he has no idea what he's doing. But then you find out that he really is a fantastic marksman. He's like the perfect dichotomy of simpleness and complexity, because I just find him to be such an interesting character, because he is so so simple to at first glance, but then it's like a can of worms when you discover who he is and all that stuff. I don't know. It's like, could you want more? And you know what's funny? The villains of the show, like the main villain of the show, is not that interesting.
Yeah, I would argue that the main bad guy is, but go on.
What I mean, the main bad guy is what?
The main bad guy is pretty interesting, considering his fitting contrast to that.
Well, yes, that I can agree, but I think what I'm trying to, and I know we're gonna develop this, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not that often that you get a main character, because normally you have a main character that needs to be simple enough for you to see all the complex characters around them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Trigun does the opposite and the same thing at the same time. Like Vash, he is such a complex character, but at the same time he's simple. So he has so many layers that I like how you're able to kind of discover all those layers throughout the show. But they find a way to make him complex, but also make everything around him complex, which is so good. Like, you know who he reminds me of in terms of the seriousness, in the seriousness in the way that they explore him as a character. He reminds me of Spike in terms of
Yeah.
the complexity, because Spike is the kind of character that's simple from first glance, but when you start digging in, he's like the most interesting character in the whole show. Even though you meet Vicious and you meet Pure LaRue, you meet all these people. Um, I don't know. Vash is just so cool, and of course, all the power poses. Um, when you started meeting Vash, were you surprised when he ended up being this complex? Were you expecting them to be this interesting with him?
I wasn't sure at some point before, but he grew on me. But you talked about his origin and all that, and simplicity and all that. I know some people that feel that the series jumps the gun because of all the it involves bonkers with the science fiction theme. And honestly, I can understand. I can see where people are coming from, because this is sure the weapons aren't exactly normal or subtle, or okay, you have a Western adaptation of Monster Hunter, the Capcom video game, but I can understand if people would have preferred it to be a lot more down to earth. I like the idea, but like the whole thing because I feel that it makes sense to the entire theme and what I want to talk about, but more on that later. And yes, he's a very complex character. Funny enough, when you're talking about Spike, the Cowboy Bebop started to airing in 1908, and the manga, the Trigun manga, started from 96 to 97.
Interesting.
So Watanabe could easily been kind of inspired by Trigun when he did anime.
I guess we'll never know. I mean, it's funny how you say that because there is a space element in Trigun.
Yeah.
But it's very close to Vash's and the villain of the story's origin story. But most of it takes place in the planet Gunsmoke. But of course, you find out that it's not Earth. Earth has been left behind. So this is a random planet, but it is a space western to a degree. In Cowboy Bebop, he's just you could say that Cowboy Bebop to a degree. If we're going to go in the same direction of what you're saying, Cowboy Bebop is kind of Trigun in space. For some reason, I just imagine a huge billboard putting Trigun and somebody going in space. Space. Did I just ruin it for you? But yeah, that's actually a very interesting thing. I never knew that. I never thought about that because you're right. Normally, it takes at least up to a year and a half to 2 years for an anime to come out of a manga that's popular. So everything you're saying tracks and makes perfect sense. So Vash, super interesting main character. I love his wardrobe. Special, and it's so funny. His wardrobe is pretty cool. It looks weird, but then when you see the opening credits and you see all the power poses, he looks super awesome. He's like the cowboy version of Spawn.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Although less good. Or pessimistic.
Yeah. So Vash is a very interesting character. So he's being followed by two insurance agents, which are the two female characters, Meryl and Millie.
Which I
Yes, especially Millie. She is like the most innocent person in the world. I don't know. I like that kind of character. She reminds me of. It makes me think. I love that type of character where you have this very strong, and ferocious female that has like the biggest heart of all. Like for example, this new show Fire Force has a character that reminds me of Millie a lot, which is the female captain of Class 8, the one that knows martial arts. That used to be a soldier. Yeah, that kind of character to me is like it's fantastic. Meryl is a good character, but I kind of feel that she's the one that gets kind of the short end of the stick to a degree. Because I'm sorry.
Please elaborate.
Well, that she's Meryl is like I feel that Millie does a lot more for the comedic and the warmth of the story. Like Meryl is there to be as very specifically a romantic foil and contrast for Vash. Like
that was pretty obvious from the get-go.
Right. So to me, I kind of feel that I wanted her to have more of a story. But the story that she has with Vash is actually very, very good. And especially towards the end, it gets a lot more deeper, and I do enjoy that. But yeah, they're great characters. I like how they're always They're always running against Vash. I like the idea of them being Vash being this humanoid typhoon, which typhoon is the type of storm that causes danger and destruction wherever he goes. And they are insurance agents.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like the funniest thing. Like, oh no, we gotta find Vash MP. Why? You're after the bounty? No. We work for the Bernadelli Insurance Company. We just have to find out that he stopped destroying stuff. We just have to try and make him stop.
I mean, normally those two would just be bounty hunters hunting him down, but here we
Right.
have the insurance company.
That is, yeah. That is like the most creative and interesting twist. It's like and the funny thing is that once they find him at the begin, once they find him and they confirm that it's him, they're just trying to keep him out of trouble. So he's like a dog with a leash, and it's just the funniest thing. I like how this show, I think, epitomizes quintessential anime humor, which I think that the best animes do it without any fear. Like for example, Cowboy Bebop, as much as I love it and as much as it has very funny moments, Cowboy Bebop is a very serious show for the most part. You know what I mean? This one does not care how serious the situation is. It wants to make you laugh, but when it does it, it is so good. It doesn't feel out of place. And I think it has to do with the fact that Vash is automatically presented to us as a bumbling idiot. And it works perfectly well.
I need to say, when are we going? We're in spoiler territory already, right?
I'm sorry?
We're already in spoiler territory, right? Or
Oh, buddy, we've been in spoiler territory at things in the beginning to a degree, so we can,
yeah,
no problem. Oh, so let's do this. Spoiler alerts.
yeah. But the reason I say the reason I say this is that there's one I forgot to mention that there's one scene that made me annoyed with Vass actually. It was one scene that made me annoyed. That's where when he kills Legato.
Yes.
Yeah, and he just stopped and he didn't do it in the. I can understand if he wanted if he tried to come out of it in the last second without killing, but the fact that he acted like he killed an innocent soul at that time, that just felt.
You mean you kind of found it too much that he mourned Legat the idea that he killed someone?
Yeah, how should I put it? There is something. It had been one thing if he felt if he was a general. I'm just speaking in hypothetical terms.
Right.
If he was a general over an army, and he looks over the army and he sees the enemy soldiers getting demolished because of his tactics and all that, and he knows that this is just to be switching from regular farmers to train knights, and they are only doing this because their king or queen are ordering to it, and that they don't have anything to say about it, and he feels bad because he killed them indirectly because he needed to self-defense.
Right.
Sort of like, however, Legato did his best to force him. They did his best to. He was about to kill his insurance comrades right in front of him, and and then he killed them all because it was the last second, and that for me is just yes, dude, really, really. I get that you don't want to kill anyone, but it's not that you accidentally shot someone's dog or misfired with your gun. I mean, seriously, dude, come on.
You see, I understand what you're saying. That it's like it's not the same when you kill an innocent civilian. Then there's a difference when you kill a civilian and when you kill an enemy, someone that's actually endangering lives, like in the case of Legato. And for the sake of the discussion, Legato is pretty much the lieutenant of the villain of the story, which is Knives, which is Vash's brother. Um, and towards the climax of the series, they have a final showdown where where I think this is a good moment to talk about Vash in terms of the themes that the show presents itself. And um, Vash is forced to kill Legato. And why this is a big deal? Like we just told you that he is the legendary gunman. We just told you that he's a legendary outlaw. That we got two feisty insurance agents that keep offering him donuts so he doesn't destroy buildings. Um,
Wow, wow.
and I said donuts, not you know what? I'm keeping this clean. Um, so um, he is this legendary outlaw that is an amazing gunfighter. Gunslinger is what I'm looking for. But there's a very interesting fact that makes this show is that he does not shoot to kill. In this world that is designed or built as a Western, where outlaws reign, where everybody owns a gun for protection, where there's bounties, where there's money to collect, bounties to collect, criminals and outlaws to stop, and he's the one that's wanted for the highest ever bounty in the galaxy to say, which is $60 billion double dollars for his head. Vash the Stampede does not kill. And just because and I'm not saying that he doesn't kill because he's like King in One Punch Man where he has no skill. No, Vash the Stampede is the smartest fighter in the room. He is the greatest gunman in a room because the action set pieces in the show are phenomenal. And every time he actually gets serious and puts on his amazing yellow shaded sunglasses, no one can defeat him, but he never shoots to kill. And and to your point, Isaac, where you think that him like technically dedicating a whole episode to him being in mourning because he killed Legato. I think this is a great moment to talk about some of the themes that the show explores, but more importantly, the the show explores ideas of morality and values and philosophy of life. And I think
Yeah.
that's that's why to me was very satisfying that episode. And here's why. Because to Vash, it wasn't that he killed Legato. It wasn't that he killed someone innocent. It's the fact that he killed someone.
Yeah, I
Period.
know that, but just
But but keep in mind, if you have lived, listen to this, if you have lived for 130 plus years, like he has, where he has been able to keep his promise to the one that raised him, which is Rem, where he promises that he will value life, where he promises that he'll do everything he can to save someone. And every time before this, he looks and looks for a way to save everybody, and he actually, to a degree, achieves it. Unless Knives is directly involved, or when Legato came and actually killed people when he wasn't there, he actually fails.
yeah, I get that, but uh, it's not. he actually like he did that, but when he had 20 types of option, but he used the easiest part. He didn't have any options. That's why I just find it so weird.
Do you think that he did have an option?
Outside of killing him to stop that, no.
And that's the thing. And I know that he didn't have an option, but it shows to me. I get what you're saying because it should be easier for him to deal with because he didn't have an option. Like as a human, we think that way. You know what I mean? But I think that's the thing about his character is that, like for example, one, he knows he's not human. He knows he's something else. So part of him is like, even though he's not like preachy throughout the whole series, he's not, but he kind of sees himself like a tortured, kind of like a, he's not a savior, but he's like a tortured hero. Like he wants to do everything he can to make people's lives better. And when he's not able to do that, he reacts like a human. He actually breaks down. So I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, and it makes sense. It's a completely valid read of that episode. But at the same time, to me, I think it was the perfect way to set up what comes next. It was the perfect way to build him up for that final showdown with knives at the end.
That I get the idea. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And the whole idea makes sense. I just find that the execution was.
Do you think it has to do a lot with the fact that you wouldn't react this way? Because for example, this is one, and I'm not saying this in a weird way, but one of the things about the character of Vash that I find interesting is that he's like the ultimate pro-life person. that that his what was that?
I know. Maybe that's too cynic, but I mean, like I said, there's a difference between in general and killing people indirectly because they are forced to fight and kill someone that is literally trying to kill you and your friends just because he technically wants to.
Yeah. No, I get you, man. I get you.
Sort of like yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I get you because it's one of those things. Like, I like how. I think this is a good moment. Thank you for bringing that up. It was a good part of the discussion. I think this is a good moment to bring up how, because just like you and I are arguing about how he emotionally dealt with that. I think this is a good moment to talk about the best friend a sinner can have, which is a priest with a traveling shotgun cross. Well, it's not shotgun, but I think I like how um, Nicholas D. Wolfwood, which is the traveling priest with the giant cross on his back, literally, is like the perfect contrast to Vash. Just like because Vash is kind of like presented to a degree, especially as the show progresses. He's kind of presented like if he were like a divine creature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he feels like a Greek tragic character, like someone with power. Like if Hercules was sent from heaven to earth and he has no way of going back to heaven, or um at least that's the way. For example, that would be Knives. Like Knives wants to go back to heaven because he's not human. Vash wants to be human and not be an angel or whatever. Um, but it's funny because the way you read Vash's emotional turmoil, it reminds me a lot of how Wolf would argue with Vash.
Yeah.
because does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, and I like how Wolfwood is like he like personifies what the audience would argue with Vash about his decisions towards violence. I like how he's like he takes the words out of our mouths. Like he's the one that tells Vash, you can't just keep going around not killing people. I mean, someone's gonna kill you back. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But I like he's a funny character. I like how he's um I like the buddy um relationship between them. I like how they remind me a lot of, let me see, who are the characters that remind me? You know how what they remind me of to a degree?
Nope.
Oh, thank you. Um they have a, I'm trying to think because I knew I had a like part of me wants to say Naruto and Sasuke, especially towards part of me, yeah. Part of me wants to say that, especially towards,
Why?
well, because when they work together in the middle of a battle is when they're the best of friends.
Yeah.
But then again, when they're not fighting, they kind of weird together. Like to me, I've actually grown fonder. I know you haven't really seen that much of it, but I've grown fonder of the relationship between Naruto and Sasuke when I was watching Boruto, because you see how much that relationship has evolved after Shippuden ended, and you kind of see how close they are and they value each other, especially when they fight against the Akatsuki in the Boruto movie. Um, but I'm just trying to look for another. I know characters that work buddy buddy like this together like this, but I like how they're the same character, but one is the divine god character and the other one is the mortal character that has to deal with everything. And I like how Wolfwood is kind of like the character that reminds Vash that he's not human. Like there's no reason why he should be aching the way that he is, but it's because of Vash's love of humanity that he aches. I don't know, man. It's deep,
Yeah.
yo.
I get it. I get it. And I actually agree in terms of contrasting both of them. And it is. If it wasn't for that part, and also, just a fun tidbit. Did you notice the recurring trend in pretty much every episode? I think in every episode.
Oh, the little cat.
Yep.
Bro, I looked that up, bro. It's so funny. I keep thinking of my wife. My wife is a crazy cat lady, and I love her to death. Um, and did go with your tidbit? I think I know where you're going with this. Talk to me about the black cat in Trigun.
It was just some funny thing that they added in, sort of like if I'm not mistaken, they added in just to have the animator sort of like have a break, if you know what I mean.
Well, not necessarily. Interestingly enough, I was actually looking. I was reading information on the show as I was preparing for the pod, and one of the things that I found is that particular cat design is actually the design for one of the first mangas that the creator of Trigun ever made.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so sort
and
of
that,
like a Pixar situation.
yes, that cat is his Pixar lamp, pretty much. Yeah, that's like his trademark, which is actually pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean, the characters on the show are so interesting. So Wolfwood, we have the traveling priest. That's kind of like a foil for Vash. I like all the dichotomies of Vash being this tragic Greek god character, especially when we find out what he is. Which I know we're in spoiler territory, but the idea of I don't want to spoil all the sci-fi elements of what he is. All I'm gonna say is that the idea that he's a humanoid typhoon has the basis on the fact that Vash is not necessarily human, and which is what makes his story that much tragic. because it is his love and value for life, for not just human life, his value for any kind of life that puts him at odds with his brother Knives, which is the villain of the story, his army of the gung ho guns, which isn't like gung ho guns the most Western spaghetti Western name for any villain group? Like there is no, dude. There's like so much cheese. Like there's a lot of cheese on that name, and not only that, every time they come in, it's like a title card. I am the third gung ho gun. I am the
Yeah.
ninth gung ho gun.
Or thinking like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like oozing cheese all over. But yeah, that's like the typical trope of a spaghetti western. Which I kind of like, and it actually reminds me of Power Rangers as well. But we're talking about Power Rangers way too much in this episode. Maybe we have to do some Super Sentai stuff. I don't know. So we're talking about Trigun, right? I kind of got lost in the mid. So, but yeah, so the Goho I forgot what it was. Power Rangers. Damn it, Isaac. Normally you get me off course. Now I got myself out of course. I gotta stop giving puns. Yeah. I like how it begins as this tragic Western story, and then it morphs into this Greek tragedy, and how you have Vash. Okay. And it's because of Vash's value of life that he doesn't kill. And I like how that puts him as with Wolfwood, that puts him as with the villain. Like at the end of the day, it is a battle. It's not just a battle of guns and wits and bullets. It's a battle of philosophies. So I wasn't expecting this show to be a philosopher, blah, 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 blah,
Such a
blah, blah,
big
blah.
on philosophy.
Yes, I wasn't expecting. Thank you for saving me from the deep well of madness. Follow the rainbow. So I was not expecting this show to become a philosophical argument or a conversation, and I like how they have that conversation because they do it through the action. There's no long term speeches. There's no preachiness to it. It's pretty cut and dry the way they talk about it, but when it happens it feels meaningful, it's engaging. um its view of is an idea of poverty, is exploration of loneliness, the desolation of the desert. I mean, this is so much a western show, but it's just a very smart western show. And like we said, when it gets to the sci-fi elements, it's just super awesome. I don't know, it is just a perfect mix of so many things I wasn't expecting to get out of this anime. And I don't know, man. This is one of those animes that I might consider. If it wasn't because I'm already paying $8 a month for Funimation, and I'm glad that I am. I canceled my Crunchyroll because almost everything that I want to watch is already in Funimation. Um, but if it wasn't because I have it there whenever I want to watch it, I would purchase. No questions asked. I would purchase um, Trigun because it's just one of those fantastic shows that I know that I might want to revisit because it's that good. Um, Before we move on to our top moments or ideas or stuff like that we liked from the show, any particular character you want to talk about? Any more theme stuff?
Nah, that is sound with me.
So let's talk about the action. It's pretty intense. The action in this show is pretty intense, and I like how every episode has a share of action, and the way it develops organically, it doesn't feel abrupt. It always engages you, and it's always the right amount of action. It's never too much. Am I correct in saying that?
No.
I'm not. You think it's too little action?
Too little, too much. That's That's up to the viewer.
In your essence, you think it was the right amount? Would you like to have seen more action?
I think it was the right amount.
Okay. Do you have a favorite scene from the anime?
Not really. It's a favorite scene, you ask. I don't know, actually.
I got a couple, but I'm not gonna say them all. But I'm gonna say this one specifically. When he's fighting the first Gung Ho gun, that he jumps in the air, and you discover that he has a machine gun arm, and he has a machine gun that comes out of his arm, and you're like, what? He's a cyborg. Like, like that was like the biggest like sci-fi twist ever. Like, I was not expecting that. And it was a very nice surprise. And it's funny because I think it's like the episode right before it. There's this episode where Wolfwood and Vash like fall down into like a weird plant place with a lot of robots. That you have the mystery of that somehow Vash saved Wolfwood when he ran out of bullets, but they never tell you how. And then you find out that it's because he has a robotic arm. Like that was like one of the most surprising and satisfying scenes ever. Like I love that. Now to not spoil way too much, my favorite episode is the gunslinging contest episode. I think that is. I may have another, but I think that's one of the ones that I saw, and I was like, as soon as I saw that one and I enjoyed it so much, like, okay, I am saying this in the pod. This is my favorite episode. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think it kind of emblemizes the best of the humor of the show, the best Wolfwood and Vash interaction that you'll ever see. It has a great degree of action. It is very funny to watch Vash handling the worst hangover and still be the best gunslinger ever. But yeah, there's so much in that episode that is just so satisfying. So yeah, I think the name of that episode, I think it's episode 10. And I think the name of that episode is Quick Draw. And it's just, to me, that's my favorite. How about you? If you don't have a favorite scene that you can remember, do you have a favorite episode?
Favorite scene? It's more like my favorite interaction is probably. I could rather say the favorite interactions, and that's. I know it might sound rather cheesy considering what we're talking early, but it's Vash and Merle.
Yeah.
I just like the interaction with them. I can't really pinpoint a specific part of it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a favorite episode, it's. I think it's either Alternative or Paradise because a certain, I wouldn't call that my favorite scene, but you know what, the thing that happens during that side arc is one of the more powerful one, so to speak.
So, and I see you're trying not to spoil, so I'm gonna honor that and not spoil. But just to be sure, we're talking about one of the more shocking arcs towards the end of the show. Is that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about two sandwiches here. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that's Paradise, the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic episode, and is a good. And there's a lot of, I think to me, and I believe that's episode 23. That is one of the most human real episodes. Like it feels very raw and real. Like you can forget that it's an anime because it feels like real drama. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is why I think there's a lot of appeal there. So yeah, that's actually a very good pull. And just so you know, I do have a comeback to your cheesiness of Meryl and Vash. Do I have permission to explore?
I would say that let me get some wine, but then I remember I don't drink alcohol, so well, go ahead.
Okay, so I agree with you that that's one of the most cheesiest relationships in the show in Trigun, Meryl and Vash, but they are the typical boy girl pair up in anime, which to me when it's done well, it is so good because it's typical boy gets along with girl, but girl finds boy annoying and they both hate each other. But when you get those scenes where they're honest with each other, you get like the most real and rawest and deep interactions that you end up loving the most, even though they're typical. Like for example, I have not seen Fairy Tale, but I already know that that's kind of the relationship I think the main two characters have. Like, see, you're laughing
Okay.
because you know I'm right. Like
I
you
have seen Fairy Tale, so
yeah, like Shishi and Goku, Vegeta and Bulma, um, Jusuke and I forgot the name of the girl in Yu Yu Hakusho, Kagome and Inuyasha. Um, there's always these different characters that are very typical.
Inuyasha. Uh, don't speak
Did I
of him.
strike a chord? Let's keep it going, brother. Let's keep it going. Contain your rage. But yeah, it's like this is a very typical um character model, but I love it how in every show that I've seen it happen, which is a lot of it happens everywhere in anime, it is done so well. And I think I haven't seen this particular trope work as well in real life or other shows. I mostly see it work in anime. And I think the way anime uses exaggerated animations, which for example, in Trigun, this show uses this particular mechanic at nauseum, but he uses it to great effect. I think that's why these kind of emotions or portrayals of annoyance or anger are very well captured. That when you get to the moments where it's quiet, where it's personal, when it's emotional, all those emotional beats work, which is I think is one of the biggest challenges when you have a lot of comedy in a show. Like in Triumph, for example, in Cowboy Bebop, all the emotional beats hit and they hit hard because it is a serious show. Like Cowboy Bebop is not designed for a 10-year-old. It is something for adults to enjoy, to dive in, to dig their teeth in, sink your teeth in. Now Trigun is like a PG-13 show. There's a lot of comedy. There's plenty of stuff for the kids to make fun of, especially with all the faces and all the madness that Vash does. But whenever the action starts, whenever Vash gets serious, you take him seriously, which I think is something that's very hard to do, but Trigun does very well. And same goes with that relationship. So thank you for mentioning that. Um, it's funny because you mentioned you see that with Meryl and Vash, and to me, my favorite relationship is Wolfwood and Vash, and kind of for the same reasons. Because it's like one of those. It feels like a real relationship. It doesn't feel like just two characters interacting. Does that make sense? Which is what you
Yeah.
want when you have characters interacting. I think another pairing that we have to say, not just because of the Bounce Chicka Bout Wow, but that relationship between Wolfwood and Meryl, and no, Wolfwood and Millie feels like a real relationship, and I like how they have that connection, and I like how every relationship progression. And we're talking about a show that's short. Like this is only 26 episodes, but
29.
I'm sorry,
Isn't it 29?
no, it's 26.
Okay, why the hell did I say it was 29 then? Eh,
Maybe you're thinking about Badlands. I don't know. So, uh,
probably.
but yeah, it's only 26 episodes, but every relationship as it evolves, it feels organic. It does. There's no character shifts that feel like, oh, where did this come from? No, it's a complete story, and I don't. And like you said, I think going back to what you said in the beginning about probably giving this show like an HD remastered. Trigun is not the show that I need more Trigun. I just like Cowboy Bebop. I'm perfectly happy with the what I got. I just want it to be. I just want people to know more about it.
Off
Um,
off the top question. Do you
yeah,
do you think we're ever gonna get a reboot or a live action? Never mind, there is apparently a live action movie.
a Trigun live action movie.
I think no. Never mind. It was a.
Yeah,
Seriously, do you ever think that we could see a Trigun remake / reboot or live action adaptation, sort of like how Cowboy Bebop is getting been giving soon with Netflix?
you know what? I'm gonna be very honest with you. I can see it happening now. And you know what's funny? I didn't think about this before. But you know why I see Trigun working live action now? Just like how now I'm pretty motivated on seeing Cowboy Bebop live action
No.
because Alita happened.
Yeah. True.
Everything everything that Alita achieved, because a lot of people, despite of what anybody could say, Alita got an A- cinema score. That's actually fantastic. Alita made money enough to probably warrant a sequel. I mean,
It
Alita is a cult classic right now.
it
It's a
ended up make plus minus zero, if I'm not mistaken, considering its production budget.
right. So it made a profit, you know. But Alita is a fantastic movie, and it's even better because it is an anime adaptation, which is a fantastic one. Seeing what Cameron and Robert Rodriguez achieved with Alita makes, especially with the idea that Alita kind of takes place in this barren Earth, similar to Trigon, for example. Um, I'm really excited to that idea. I would like to see a live action Trigon. But I think that for Trigon to work, it has to be handled. Well, I haven't seen Cowboy Bebop yet, but it should be handled the way The Witcher or Cowboy Bebop was handled, in long form. Like Alita kind of works very well because they kind of took multiple arcs and created one new arc to kind of encapsulate a lot of the manga in one movie. I think Trigun could work as a movie, but because of the relationship that I have with the characters, I kind of one of the things that I like about the show is that it takes its time, and I think the reason Trigun works is because it takes its time. And like for example, one of the big differences to me between Cowboy Bebop and Trigun is that Cowboy Bebop is designed for you to enjoy it one episode at a time. In terms of like you can watch one episode, not watch anything again, but even though you only watch one episode, you kind of got Cowboy Bebop. Does that make sense? Um,
Yeah.
like Trigun, to truly get it and really enjoy it, you actually have to sit through the episodes, which is not a bad thing to do, but you kind of grow with the show. Cowboy Bebop not that much, but it's not a bad thing. It's just the way the narrative works or the way they explore the characters is just very different. Um, but yeah, that's a good idea. But I wouldn't make it a movie. I would try and do long form, be probably an 8 episode or 10 episode miniseries.
Yeah.
And that's the way I would do it.
Yeah, I was
Um,
just thinking about it because well, when While we're talking about the anime classic, Trigun comes to mind, but you never heard anything about something
Yeah.
like a live action adaptation of this and that. The same
Yeah.
could go for, to some degree, Hellsing Ultimate, but
Yeah.
not to the same extent. And I can more understand why Ultimate hasn't been given a live action treatment compared to Trigun.
Well, see, the funny thing about Hellsing Ultimate though is that Hellsing kind of works best as an anime.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you kind of want the exaggerated gore and the exaggerated figures and the exaggerated creature feature that it is. Um, Trigun, for example, because of its Western genre and steampunk aesthetic, it kind of asks for a live action adaptation because it's an anime that kind of is trying to emulate a live action setting. Does that make sense? It's trying to call back to those Western movies. It's trying to call back to like I don't know, trying to call back to Blade Runner or that kind of thing, you know. Which is why I think it will work. Which is why, for example, I think whenever they announce the Cowboy Bebop series, yes, you kind of freak out because you don't want someone to tarnish as a perfect. Because I think the biggest fear that people have with the Cowboy Bebop adaptation. I know we're kind of going on a tangent, but I think it's good to say this. Is that a lot of people freak out about the Cowboy Bebop adaptation, not because it's a live action adaptation. It's because Cowboy Bebop is technically a perfect show. That's why people freak out. And I think that's a very important thing to point out. Does that make sense? Because the problem is not that the live action they don't want the live action to ruin the accessibility and the greatness of the show. But the reason why Cowboy Bebop works so well is because it reminds you or it kind of draws on a lot of very real things as opposed to being all fantasy. Does that make sense? And I kind of went on a very weird tangent, but you know.
Mm.
I don't know, man. That's all I got about Trigun. You got anything else you want to add?
I triple your sentiments.
Triple my. I feel. I feel like we're betting. I go all in. I triple your sentiments. I would imagine you gambling. It would be hilarious.
Nah, I would never gamble because that wouldn't be. I wouldn't. Would just be kicked out because of all of my dumb puns and instead of ever being able to play.
No poker face. He has no puns. He's all poker face. But yeah. So that's all we got on Trigun. I know you own it, right? You own the series, outright.
Mm-hmm.
Trigun is a very popular show. You can find it on Hulu. You can find it on Funimation. You can find it on Crunchyroll. It is a fantastic anime. Give it a chance. If you like westerns, if you like sci-fi, if you like steampunk, if you just want a great story or a great laugh with great, well voice acted characters, this is one of those few shows that actually works perfectly well with the English voice acting, and it works very, very, very good with the Japanese voice actors. Of course, Madhouse, fantastic production company. Watch Trigun. It is the best sci-fi, steampunk, western anime of the 1990s. It's almost what 1, 2, 3. It's 20 years old right now, and we're recording about Trigun right now, 20 years after its 22 years after its release, and it's because it is still that good. It is fantastic. Um, we're done with talking about Trigun, so we're gonna do a very quick little housekeeping before we sign off. Um, we're really excited because it's almost the Amateur Otaku is almost a year old. We've been recording since I think February or the end of January. We premiered the first episode. I think it was the 2nd of February. So technically, we are ending our first season of the Amateur Otaku Podcast. And we're going to do something very, very, very special to end the season. And it's funny, you know what I was seeing, Isaac? We started the show. Episode 1 was us talking about a live action adaptation. And we're actually ending the season with a live action adaptation as well. So I'm really excited.
Not made by Madhouse.
Not made by Matt. Thank you for pointing that out, sir. Not made by Madhouse. But yeah, we are actually going to finish with a live action adaptation that we've actually been talking on and off again, that we've been wanting to do it for the longest time. We considered doing this as a bonus episode, but we find that covering this movie is the best way to finish the first season of the Amateur Otaku. And one of the most beloved samurai-inspired animes in anime history is Rurouni Kenshin. And a couple of years ago, I believe it was back in 2014, Warner Brothers Japan actually came out with a fantastic live-action trilogy based on Rurouni Kenshin. With these 3 movies, they practically covered the entirety of, or the majority of, the most known Rurouni Kenshin arcs, from the beginning of the show to his battle with Shishio. And we're actually going to cover, I don't know if we're going to do just one movie or we're going to do a quick review or thoughts of the entire trilogy, but our next topic of discussion for the season finale, episode 19 of the Amateur Otaku Podcast, is going to be Rurouni Kenshin. I'm excited, Isaac.
Me too. And you need to post that with I'm too, but you need to post that commentary track on End of Evangelion already, so people can have a good laugh.
Well, the good thing is, thank you for bringing that up. I have been saying for the last couple of months that I'm working to getting the Amateur Otaku on YouTube, because I want YouTube to be another place where people can check us out. But I also want YouTube to be the place where we do a lot of bonus episodes or commentary tracks and stuff like that. Probably just, and one of the things that we recorded a long time ago, where we actually did kind of live movie commentary on the End of Evangelion movie and the Death True Evangelion movie. And those are very explicit and crazy commentary tracks. But we wanted to share all with you. But I haven't put them out live because I wanted them to go on YouTube. So the good thing is we officially have a channel. I am working on the first episode. I've never done video before, so it's taking me a while to get everything together. But I think hopefully by the start of season 2, which is going to happen mid-February, you'll see a couple of videos come up on YouTube, and some of those are going to be the Evangelion tracks. So Isaac, it's coming. People will know why I hate those movies. It's coming.
You weren't so mad about one of the movies, considering it's just a recap movie, but
true. But just because I saw, you know what? I hate the movies. Don't try to defend Isaac. I hate.
You didn't hate one of them. You loved the End of Evangelion, though.
See, that's why we're not friends. No.
And you should buy a Switch.
There we go. See, we can't end the season without. Okay, so, but yes, I'm working on the YouTube. That's coming. We're gonna put those episodes there. But yes, we're gonna end the season with a bang. We don't know if we're gonna do the full Rurouni Kenshin trilogy or we're just gonna do one movie, but we're gonna end with that live action adaptation, and we're really, really, really excited to record that episode. So this episode is gonna come live very soon, and that episode, the season finale episode, should be premiering by the end of January. After the season premiere, we're actually going to take a break of around 3 to 4 weeks, and probably towards the 3rd or last week of February, that's when season 2 is going to start. And I think, as we talked about, we're gonna start with we're gonna finally do our full recap of Doctor Stone and Fire Force. Correct?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, we started covering those shows at when they started, but we had so many other stuff that we want to talk about, so we kind of got to the conclusion that the best way for us to do a good review of a show is that we're just gonna wait till the season is over, and then we're gonna dedicate an episode to watching that, get all caught up, and bring that feedback to you guys. And we kind of think that works because one of the most listened to episodes that we have is the our recap and thoughts on Attack on Titan season 3. And we really appreciate the fact that you guys have really listened and enjoyed that episode. And here's a sneak peek. That is going to be the first episode to come live on our YouTube channel. So there's a lot of awesome stuff happening. And thank you for being with us this first year at the Amateur Otaku Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Isak, where can they find you on the webs?
You can find me at Emblemaniac with a C on Twitter.
And you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52. That is at the Scarlet Fan 52. And you can find most of my works on RevengeOfTheFans.com. Also, I have another podcast that I started with my friend Adam Basciano. He has a Tales of the DC Multiverse podcast, and he has a particular episode that he's uploading a month where we talk all things Flash. That particular pod channel is called The Flash of Two Mics. The first episode came out around Christmas time. It's a fantastic episode. If you love all things Flash, go check that out. So from here to you, thank you for joining us at the Amateur Otaku. Till next time, have it awesome.